Hi there and welcome to another PSD Toots spoon-fed Photoshop tutorial. I'm Gavin Steele and I'm going to be taking you through Collis's plastic text effect. You can find all of the steps involved in this particular tutorial over at the website under the heading 6 Quick and Dirty Photoshop Text Effects from Scratch, and they were created by Collis. Okay, so let's get started. This is the final image that I'm aiming for. You can see I've applied the same style to this little tick, and I'll show you how to do that in this tutorial. First thing you need to do is create a new canvas and write some text somewhere in the middle or wherever you want to position it. Okay, the choice of font is actually quite important with this particular tutorial. You want to use a nice chunky font so that it really gives a realistic effect to the plastic text. Okay, we want lots of room to see the highlights and the little flick of light that goes across the top of the letters. So once you've typed in your text, we're just going to race through our layer styles. So the first thing you need to do is double click on this plastic layer, and we're going to play around with all these layer styles going down the left. So in our blending options, under our general blending mode, we're going to set that to overlay. Then we're going to apply an inner shadow. Make sure you change that to overlay. We're going to choose a green color, something along the lines of 7 CBB 77. Nice green color. Click on OK. The opacity we're going to raise up to 100%. We're going to change the angle to -90. Before you do that, uncheck Use Global Light. I'm going to set that to -90 with a distance of 2, 0 for the choke, and 6 for our size. We're going to leave our contour alone, and then we're going to move down to our inner glow. Okay, on inner glow we're going to change that to overlay, again raising it to 100%, leaving the noise on 0, and we're going to change this color to white. Click on OK. We're then going to have a look at our elements. We're going to make sure that's set on softer, on edge, 0, and then we're going to lower the distance of the size down to 2. Okay, everything else on there, the quality looks fine. We're going to move down to Bevel and Emboss. We're going to use an inner bevel, smooth, with a distance of 351. We're going to make sure it's in the down direction, and we're going to set the size to 1. The angle needs to be set to 120 degrees. We're going to use global light, set the altitude to 30, and we're going to change our gloss contour. And we're just going to use this one right here, which is the inverted cone. So make sure you have that checked. Our highlight mode is going to be set to overlay, and again we're going to go for a green color. So something like C6 FF BF. We're going to set the opacity for that layer down to 2%, and we're going to set our shadows to multiply black with an opacity of 0. And then finally we're going to apply a gradient overlay. Leave the blending mode on normal, we're going to lower the opacity down to 84%, and then we're going to choose the color for our overlay. Now I've got mine saved down at the bottom here. Okay, so I just click on that. Now I'll just show you what those colors are. It starts off with 3/8 BB2B, which is a medium green. We then go to a slightly darker green, which is 2F8C28. And finally we end up with a nice light green, or pale green, ADFFB3. Okay. Make sure you've got it set to linear, angle of 90 and 100%. And that's our first layer done, so we can click on OK and have a look at how that looks. Okay, so now we're going to apply the little reflective layer that goes along the top of our font. And to do that, I'm just going to duplicate this layer double click on it, go back into our layer options, and I'm going to uncheck all of these. Right. Make sure on blending options we change it from overlay to multiply, and then we're going to add an inner shadow, so make sure you've got that ticked and highlighted. Again on overlay, and we're just going to change the color to 78C471. Click on OK. Make sure it's at 100%. We're going to change the angle to 84. We're going to set the distance to 0, 0, and then we're going to have the size set at 3. And we're going to change the quality contour, and we're going to use this one just here. Okay, and that's the cove, a shallow cove, so click that, and the noise is going to be 0%. Now we're going to have a look at the Bevel and Emboss. The first thing you need to click on under Bevel and Emboss is the contour. Make sure you've got that ticked and selected, and we're going to use a different contour. We're going to use this one over here on the right, and this is the Gaussian. Okay. Make sure your range is set to 50, and we're going to tick the little box next to it. Then we're going to go back and we're going to have a look at Bevel and Emboss, so make sure you've got that selected there. Okay, make sure it's set to inner bevel, smooth, with a distance of 970. In opposite direction, we're going to go with up. We're going to set the size to 98. And we're going to set soften to 0. The angle is going to stay at 120. We're going to use global light, and the altitude is going to be set to 30. Now come over to where it says gloss and contour and click on the little image. And you can see that we get a little mapping area here, and we can play around with how we want to map our contours. Okay, and you can play around with that. Now I'm going to load the one we created earlier for plastic. On load, and you can see how that comes out. The input's 100%, input mass, and the output, sorry, is 65. So play around with that until you get something that looks similar to what I've got on the screen there, and then I'm going to click on OK. Down in the highlight mode, I'm going to change it to screen, and we're going to change the color to F5 FFF4 at 100%. We're going to leave the shadow on multiply and black and on 0%. Okay, click on OK, and we should have our plastic text. Now that looks pretty good. I'm just going to quickly show you how you can apply those layer styles to some other images. I'm going to come over to my custom images, and you can see I've selected the tick. Again, you can choose any of these custom images or download some from the web, and I'm just going to use that custom image on a new layer, and I'm just going to draw it right underneath. Okay, now I'm going to click on my first layer. I'm going to control click on the Mac, and I'm going to copy the layer style, and then just come up to our image, control click, and paste the layer style. I'm going to duplicate that layer. This time I'm going to come to our top plastic layer. I'm going to copy that layer style and then paste that over the other. Let me just change that a second. Make sure I selected the right one. So copy that layer style, and then you come up here, control click, and paste that layer style. Now if I just close them down, can now move them about, you can start to play around with the layout of the text. But you can see you can apply that really easy effect to a number of different things, not just text, and you get a great result. So thanks again to Collis for these brilliant quick tutorials on changing our fonts, and can't wait to see what you do with them. Thanks very much.